Good. Hello, mathematicians. We are going to talk about the Pythagorean theorem today. We're in our last unit about triangles, and this is what's going to kick us off. We know it's a review, so hopefully very quickly, let's go ahead and get started. So the Pythagorean theorem only works for right triangles, which means there's a right angle there in the corner. The two sides that touch that angle are called the legs. And the side right here, the longest side, is called the hypotenuse. That is C in this formula. And it's always the longest one. No questions asked. It is always the longest leg. Depending on what we're given, we'll be solving for one of these three letters. So let's go on ahead and take a look at an example. In this problem, C is what we're looking for. We can tell because it's across from the right angle. So in the formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is going to be 4. It could be 8. A and b are interchangeable. But I always do the smallest number if I can, just because my brain works that way. So 4 squared is 16. 8 squared is 64, and then c squared is just c squared. At this point, we're going to just add the two numbers together. 16 plus 64 is 80 equals c squared. And we have to remember that squaring a number is multiplying it times itself. Like 4 times 4 was 16. And we got to ask ourselves, okay, what times itself equals 80? And the answer is probably a decimal, because we don't actually know a number times itself that equals 80. To undo the squared, we do something called a square root. And that button is on your calculator. It's also on your phone calculator if you turn it to the side. And so I'm going to do that real quick. And when we do that, we get 8.9. The problems are going to ask you if there is a decimal to round them to a certain point. If it tells you 2 decimal places, you do 2. If it tells you 1, you do 1. If it says nearest whole number, you round to the nearest whole number. In this case, 8.9 is our answer, and we move on. Same kind of deal going on here in this problem. C is across from the right triangle. Again, we're not always going to solve for C. We just happen to be solving for C twice in a row. I'm going to plug in A and B. 3 times 3 is 9. 7 times 7 is 49. We add them together. And as always, remember, if I'm moving too fast, you are more than welcome to pause this video. We've got the squared. We undo it with a square root. Cancels to just get C on the right, and the square root of 58 is about 7.6 if I round. So sometimes we're not solving for C. We've already got a number on here for C, and that means we're solving for whatever this is. Remember, I said A and B are interchangeable, so I could solve for A, I could solve for B, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to throw a B in there. And that makes 15A and 25C. 15 times 15 is 225, which you can find in your calculator. 25 times 25, if you do it in your calculator, is 625. We subtract 225 because we're trying to isolate B. We're trying to isolate the variable, just like back when we first learned equations. And we get 400 for b squared. Just like with c squared, we undo the squared with a root, and b equals 20. And that is all there is to solving a problem for a or b. We would do the same thing for a. The next question we have is, do the following lengths make a right triangle? The longest one has to be c. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug into a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And when we do that, we are going to see if they're equal. If they are equal, then yes, they make a right triangle. If they're not equal, they do not make a right triangle. 11 squared is 121. 60 times itself is 3,600. 61 times itself is 3,721. We add them together. On the left, we get 3,721. That is the same. So yes, it does make a right triangle. And finally, an example of a word problem that you're going to see. Molly's home is in a certain place. When she leaves it and drives north, which is up to Lowell, it's 7 miles. When she leaves her home and drives east, which is to the right, it's 6 miles to Campbell. We are being asked to find the distance between Lowell and Campbell, which is C, because that is a right angle. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 6 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. When I add them together, I get 85. And then we will root, and the square root of 85 is 9.2. So they are about 9.2 miles apart. That's how you would set up a problem like that. I strongly recommend making a drawing. Otherwise, it will be hard to do. That's it for this lesson. There's a homework assignment. Good luck. Message me on Canvas if you have any questions, and I will see you again in the next video.